I invite you to tune into these words from Paramhansa Yogananda, Whispers from Eternity, one of his prayer demands. Feel yourself not only listening to this, but feel yourself absorbed in the vibration behind these words. Volumes of thy Savior voice resound through the loudspeaker of every loving heart. The voice of thy wisdom roams through the ether of space, seeking everywhere hearts that are tuned to ecstasy. Sadly, thy warning sermons pass unheard by souls deafened with the static of sense pleasures. O divine broadcaster, tune our souls, long distracted by the static of our indifference. Fine-tune us with the delicate touch of soul perception. Grant us the privilege of hearing thy magic melodies in the ecstasy of divine awakening. So in Paramhansa Yogananda's Autobiography of a Yogi, in the chapter Babaji's Interest in the West, it's a time where Yogananda's guru, Swami Kriyananda, shares stories about his meetings with the eternal deathless guru, Babaji. And at one point, Kriyananda goes to visit his own guru, Lahiri Mahashai, at his home in Benares, which is now called Varanasi. And he enters a room into the little parlor where Lahiri would often have satsangs, gatherings with people. And Lahiri says, "Welcome, Sri Kishwar. Did you just see Babaji at the threshold of the room as you came in?" And Sri Kishwar, surprised, says, "Why? No." And Lahiri says to him, "Come here." And he touches him lightly on the forehead, and he immediately sees the form of Babaji, as if Babaji is a priceless, beautiful lotus, is the way it's described, but very, very sweet in that way. And then there's a section of conversation that happens, which I'm not going to go into, but is invaluable into itself for us to tune into, as many lessons in that. But then Babaji says to Swami Kriyananda, "Child, you must meditate more. Your gaze is not yet perfect." Or he actually says, your gaze is not yet faultless. You did not see me behind the sunlight. And then it says, Babaji disappears into the radiant ether. So if we think we've got it tough just trying to see some impression of the divine, here the divine through Babaji is hiding behind sunlight, not some opaque substance, not some form, but through sunlight he's hiding. And it's interesting that Babaji says to Sri Yukteswar, so this probably happened around 1895, because Swami Sri Yukteswar says that in the next following paragraphs, that it was one of the last times he saw in person Lahiri Mahashai. And Lahiri Mahashai had his Mahasamadhi as leaving the body in 1895. So in 1895, Swami Sri Yukteswar was already 40 years old. But Babaji refers to him and calls him child. And this is important for all of us, that all of us are children in the divine light, in that divine presence. So he's not referring to Sri Yukteswar as not being old. I mean, for some of us now, 40 is very youthful. But what he's saying, what he's emphasizing is, because you are attuned to me, you are my child. Well, he's saying that to all of us. He's really expressing that to each of our souls. That my child, tune in more, meditate more, really see me behind the forms that are expressed through daily life. So the question, does God hide the truth? I would say the answer is yes and no. Because as the reading refers to this, that there is this veil that separates us from the divine. And yet, if we tune in, there is no veil. It's really a reference to who we are, not the experience of God so much. Although, as Yogananda and others have said, God enjoys playing hide and seek with us. Isn't that a sweet way of understanding it? And why would that be the case? Because the divine wants to be sure we really want the experience of the divine. That we won't go even for halfway there. We won't settle less until the soul returns to its home in God once more. And that's important for us to understand that the divine presence is universally always around us and within us. And it's really our test, really in life, that we're born into, is to say, how do I make this more refined? How do we let our experience be faultless, as Babaji says to Sri Yukteswar? How do we go beyond where we're just missing the point in our spiritual awakening? You know, there's a common story that's a lot of us have heard about the footprints in the sand. And it's an interesting story to relate to again. And what it is a man has a dream that he's given his life to God completely, and they're walking the journey of his life together on sand. And there are those two footprints that are there because of the man with God. And then after a time, he looks back and sees that there are areas in their walk, in their journey, where there's only one set of footprints. And he becomes disheartened. And he says to God, because he has this relationship that's real with God, that why is it when the most difficult times in my life, when the tests were severe and I was struggling, that there are only one set of footprints? Where did you go? Why did you let go of me? And God says, in a very sweet voice, he says, "Ah, my dear one, I am always with you. And during those tests, those difficulties that you had, I was carrying you. That's why there was only one set of footprints. I was taking care of you in the way that you needed at that time." But that is the focus that we all have, or that we will have, we should have, we need to have in our lives. To know that God is always with us, even when it feels like there's no experience of that. We feel abandoned. We feel the darkness coming in. We feel that affecting everything we do, our moods, our way of relating to the world around us. We start to feel that sense of defeat, unworthiness. But God hasn't changed anything. God is there with us. It's our perception. And it's our willingness to say, of course God is there, even if I can't perceive Him in the way that I'm accustomed to. Perhaps you've had this experience where you've had some deep meditations. You know what that experience of God is. Or even if they're not that deep, you've probably been touched by something of that divine experience, some kernel of that light, some expression of that experience. And it goes on maybe for some time. Not only just moments, but maybe days, maybe even longer. And then it changes, and we don't feel that experience. It's not an uncommon thing that happens to most devotees. And in a way, it's the divine always exploring with us, do you really want me? Do you really want to go beyond even your spiritual likes and dislikes? Your spiritual likes, which still remains a barrier to the experience of the divine. Very, very interesting in that way. You know, this weekend at the Expanding Light, our dear friend Sanjan has been leading a weekend retreat for the transformative power of prayer, where he's been focusing on Whispers from Eternity as a valuable tool to really gain not only insights, but the experience of really tuning into those whispers from God in our lives. And there are many ways to approach whispers from eternity in our own lives, and I'm sure Sanjan covered quite a few of them and gave many experiences to the guests that are here for the program. But I know for me, in tuning into this, that I was feeling that, one, there's an inspiration, of course, in reading these prayer demands of Yogananda's. But then there's this part of each whisper that gives us, in a very real way, the touch of God. And there are so many of them that there isn't an aspect of the divine within creation that isn't touched. I mean, it's remarkable to look at it from that perspective, that that's really what Yogananda has given us through these prayer demands. The touch in so many different ways. And so it's not just that we're inspired by that, which of course is important, but as we tune in, as we deepen our relationship to a particular whisper from eternity, we start to open the door to the experience of that. And that's what Yogananda writes about in the foreword, in the introduction, in the book Whispers from Eternity, of allowing ourselves to be open enough and focused enough that we have that experience of the divine. So even though most of us didn't attend this weekend with Sanjan, you too can further explore this possibility of resonating with the experience that's offered to us from these precious treasures from Whispers from Eternity, because they set asunder the veils that separate us from the divine in that way. But we also want to make sure we're allowing our devotion to be always deepening and refined. You know, I was thinking just yesterday that one of the Sanskrit chants that I resonate with a lot, and it's one of the ones, there are only a handful of ones that Swami Kriyananda emphasized and said were really in tune with our approach to chanting. And it's a very simple Sanskrit chant. It only has 2 words. Hari Bol. Hari Bol. And Bol is translated loosely into either say or chant. And Hari is the name of God. And its uniqueness is that, as Swami Kriyananda explained, it's the name of God as the stealer of our hearts. Isn't that sweet? God is always waiting for us. As Jesus said, God comes like a thief in the night. Our part is to open up. So this chant, Hari Bol, I'll chant it for you. And if you know it, you can chant it. We'll just do it once through. Hari Bol, 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 Hari Bol. Hari Bol, Hari Bol, Hari Bol, Hari Bol. There are many times when I start that chant, I can't continue chanting the words out loud. It's such a powerful devotional experience that it feels like a precious treasure of being in that touch of the divine and letting my heart be stolen. Letting God steal my heart so that I know that whatever happens, whatever aspects of this amazing labyrinth of Maya, of delusion happens, that's just the outward play. But as we can more and more, each one of us, just feel in our hearts that God is stealing our hearts, taking our devotion and purifying it so that all that remains is the purity of that experience of the divine, that we're not approaching God anymore. We're with God. We're in that direct experience. We're living it. We're immersed in it. There is no other. You know, the book of letters that Sister Gyanamata, who was Yogananda's foremost woman disciple, she called them God alone. And then it was published as a book at a certain point, long after her passing. But isn't that a sweet way to approach it as well? God alone. And she used to have a placard above her bed that said those words, God alone. To always remind her that was her real vocation in life. Everything else, the service she did, which she was very seva-oriented, service-oriented, and every other part of her life, it came from that top of the waterfall, cascading down from God alone into every nuance, into every part of her life, whether it be where she was challenged or whether it was the grace of being with her guru, Yogananda. It was always that experience that was not only touching her, but allowing her to be in that fullness of the experience of God. And that's really what our lives are about, that God may play hide and seek with us, and it's a guarantee that He will, to, again, as I said before, to see if our devotion and our willingness of self-offering is really complete, or at least moving the direction of being completely there. Because sometimes we will have the karmic sidetracking experiences that take us off somewhere else. But even then, it's remembering, God, God alone, my divine, my whole heart is with you. Let me be there, and let me completely be absorbed in that experience. Let my heart be stolen, so that I live always in Thee, with Thee, and letting Thee express through me in every part of our lives. So, the prayer I started with is a wonderful way to take this forward. May our souls be Thy temple. May our hearts be Thy altar. And may our love be Thy home. Blessings.
God is our Father, our Mother too. God is our dearest treasure. God's ever near, the one friend who loves us without any measure. Of His dreams our love was made, only from Him is love repaid.
Let us in gladness all live for Him, serve Him in every season, serve Him with thought, with hand and limb, love Him without any reason. God befriends us as we are, fools we that hold His love afar. God is our Father, our Mother too. God is our dearest treasure. God's ever near, the one friend who loves us without any measure. Of His dreams our love was made, only from Him is love repaid. Let us in gladness all live for Him, serve Him in every season, serve Him with thought, with hand and limb, love Him without any reason. God befriends us as we are, fools we that hold His love afar. God befriends us as we are, fools we that hold His love afar.
I have a love who's far away, far away, far away. I have a love who's far away, farther away than the stars. And yet she's stolen my heart away, heart away, heart away. And yet she's stolen my heart away, farther away than the stars. Keep me not bound here, teach me to fly, far from earth's madness, free ere I die. Keep me not bound, no, teach me to fly, farther away than the stars. There's nothing here nearly so dear, nearly so dear, nearly so dear. There's nothing here nearly so dear as her laughter away in the stars.